Yeah, go. Right, evening everybody. It is, I'm like well off on the side here. I'm moving a little bit. Wednesday, 14th of December, and been a bit busy, so I've got to crack on. I've got to upload one tonight, so we'll do 3 tonight, just to get ahead of the game a little bit, because tomorrow, in fact, you might catch this before tomorrow night, because I need to upload this one tonight. If you are in Leeds tomorrow, 15th of December, at the Lazy Lounge, the Yorkshire Fellowship of the Still are having a bit of a get-together, finishing off a load of bottles, and they are doing it as a fundraiser for my challenge. So hopefully this will raise a little bit more for Children's Heart Surgery Fund, which is absolutely fantastic, and I'm very, very grateful for them to do that. So if you do catch this and you're in Leeds tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're watching this, come along to the Lazy Lounge, which isn't too far away from Leeds Central Station. I am planning to be there, hopefully, not for the whole night, because I've got to put kids to bed and everything, but I will be there at some point. And yes, thank you very, very much to Yorkshire Fellowship of the Still for this very, very kind event that you're putting on. So tonight, the last Speyside. It's a lot of Speysides I've done, 50 in the end. I don't know why I counted 60 initially, but yeah, 50 Speysides in a row. It's a lot. Have I got sick of Speyside? No, but it's been not a chore, but it has been kind of like I could do with something a little bit different. But it has been fun, and I've been very pleasantly surprised by a number of them. And I've also not really previously realised just how many distilleries are just used for blends, and there's very little of the rest of them about as official bottling. So it's been very nice to be able to come across a number of Speyside whiskies that otherwise I never would have even found, because they just don't release it as official bottlings. This one, however, is an official bottling. Not this, obviously. This was a very kind donation by Barry Bradford of the Whisky Files. Thank you, Barry. And if you've not checked out his blog, The Whisky Files, you should do. Whisky Files, PH, not files as in F. Yes, so this is Tormore, and Tormore is here. It's a relatively new distillery. They started building it in 1958 and it opened in 1960, and it was set up by the Long John Distilling Company. Long John the blend, very popular blend. Sort of late 50s, early 60s, there was a bit of a boom of whiskey blended whiskies, and they just needed to satisfy demand. So in the sort of 60s, you'll see a few new distilleries appear, and there is an argument that this is Tormore is the first properly new distillery of the 20th century, because there were a couple of others like Glenteith that was a little bit earlier that were using existing buildings, whereas this was purpose built. It's a very, very attractive distillery. It doesn't even look really much like a distillery itself. It was designed by a quite highly regarded architect called Sir Albert Richardson, and like the building is like a light granite, and it's kind of modern, but and not quite timeless, but it is very tastefully done. And there are some places that sort of describe it more as a spa than an actual distillery. It's not very classical, but it is very, very attractive indeed. In fact, I'll put up a picture. I'll try and find a picture of the distillery that kind of gives you an impression of what it looks like. Ultimately it became Long John Distillers were then they were bought by Whitbread, the brewers, but in 1975, but that year it then transferred across to Allied Distillers, who became Allied Domecq, who then were taken over by Pernod Ricard in 2005, and it's still under Pernod Ricard's wing, under the Chivas Brothers kind of whiskey arm of Pernod Ricard. Now the official bottling used to be a 12-year-old. It's one of these single malts that, yes, it's used in blends, it was used in Long John, but they have official bottlings, and the Tormore 12 was kind of out there, but not massive. You know, there wasn't huge amounts of it. They weren't pumping it out. It was predominantly focused on blends, but you could find Tormore. It just wasn't particularly, it wasn't that it wasn't highly regarded, it was just one of those that didn't make much of a fuss. No real advertising for it. You might find it on a shop shelf, you might not. The 12-year-old looked like this, and you can still find it around and about, but they've now replaced it with a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and the 14 is what I've got here. So the 14-year-old looks like this. Very different style, stumpy bottle, different colouring, all sorts of things. The 12-year-old bottle was a bit bright, certainly, but they've gone a little bit more subdued. Now it's bourbon matured, and they also, it's very, the barley they use is lightly peated as well. So it's been known to be quite a light single malt, but the lightly peated element as well just hopefully will give it something slightly interesting. So obviously slightly older, gone from a 12-year-old to a 14-year-old. You're looking at 49 quid at Master of Malt. Whisky Exchange was saying they were sold out, but it's a week before Christmas, so they're probably sold out of quite a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's, you know, it'll be interesting to see. It's 43% as well, whereas I think the old 12-year-old was 40%. So it's one of these where 43 just gives it a little bit more to it, I've found. So colouring wise, it's a good colour actually. Now whether colouring's been added or not, I've absolutely no idea. Not overly bothered, but it's a nice kind of golden, slightly coppery, but it's more kind of copper gold. In fact, it's gold with copper rather than copper with a golden element to it. But it's a pretty healthy colour, it's got to be said. Yeah, I wonder whether there is colouring added to it. It's just got that slight edge to it. But it's funny that, yes, it's lightly peated, but you can sort of sense it's there. You can't really obviously smell it. There is something, there's a sweetness to it, but there's almost like an apple tart feel, like a caramelized apple. Yeah, there's a definite, there's quite a sharp sweetness to it, if that makes sense. It's not really citrusy sourness. It's much more, it's like an apple and pear fruitiness, but it's quite a sharp apple. So it's kind of almost like Granny Smith's apples, where there's that slight sour note as well as sweetness. There's a malty element to it, and there's a toffee element, but there's this slightly caramelized note. It's a nice nose, actually. It's a nice nose. That is interesting. That caramelized apple carries on the palate. It's quite chewy. There really is a chewy toffiness to it as well. Very much kind of, we've got Quality Street and Roses and Celebrations tubs coming out of our ears at the moment because it's Christmas. And I love Quality Street toffee pennies and the toffee fingers. So it's, and what I found is we've got a tub of Roses. We got them about 3 months ago when they were on deal, like cheaper than you'll find anytime during Christmas. So we stocked up. We got about 6 of the bastards. And Roses, a slight digression, Roses have changed their packaging and they're terrible. You can't tell which one's which. They're all in individual big packets that you kind of split open, so you can't keep the wrappers for kids' toys, like craft things, and it's just a mess. And I'm sure you've got less in them as well. They have caramel, they've got like a caramel chew, you know, coated in caramel, but the caramel's a bit softer. Quality Street, toffee pennies and toffee fingers are pretty hard. It's that sort of thing where when you're chewing on them, you kind of feel like it's pulling your teeth out and your jaw's really hurting as you're chewing it, but it's a really, really mouth-watering caramel with that chocolate element, particularly on the toffee fingers, because toffee pennies are just toffee on their own. And this has that element. This has the kind of milk chocolate, almost plain chocolate. It's a bit of a darker chocolate, but there is a real toffee character to it. And the mouthfeel as well, it's quite a chewy toffee. It really does feel quite thick and rich in your mouth. There's a slight mintiness coming through as well, but it's like a mint fondant. So it's, again, the chocolate's there. and it's kind of an odd combination of like toffee and mint, but mint fondant. So it's that, and I think the mouthfeel's giving that mint fondant feel. It's a very thick, full, chewy mouthfeel on for a whiskey. It's lovely, and it's sort of a, oh god, what is it? What's the mint fondant one? The fries, chocolate cream. So it's like a chocolate bar that's got fondant in the middle, and you can break bits off, and they do a mint version. I think that's the one in the green. I'm sure I've talked about this on the whiskey way early on in the challenge, and it's got an element of fries chocolate cream, but also this toffee finger element from a Quality Street. I'm liking this a lot. I really do like this. This has got flavours that really float my boat. I think I said the other day, it rocks my boat, where I meant it either rocks my world or floats my boat. Rocking your boat, not particularly brilliant. Rocking your world is a good thing. Floating your boat, also a good thing. And this does float my boat. This has got loads of flavours that I really like. I like the toffee element. I like the caramelised element. There is this appliness, but there's also this mint fondant feel, and they work really well. They're not dissonant flavours that aren't bouncing off each other and just taste weird. There's a real kind of chocolate box element to this, and it is a chocolate box. It's got your caramel, it's got your slightly sweet nuttiness to it as well. It's got all these different kind of like a box of Milk Tray or All Gold or something like that, where you've got different flavours in there, and sometimes you're like, oh, I could really murder some chocolate. I'm going to eat 3 or 4 at the same time, and they all melt together and work really well. And it's that in a glass, and it's got that thick mouthfeel to it as well. This is a cracker. This is really, really good. I like that a lot. And right on the finish, right at the end, there is this little kick of peat, but it ties a bow around everything. It works really well. It just finishes it off and gives you something interesting at the finish, that it just lasts a little bit longer. It doesn't just disappear. It's like all of a sudden you've got this little tang of peaty, sweet peatiness coming through. That is a chocolate selection box in a glass, and it's absolutely brilliant. 50 quid feels a bit steep, but then it's a 14-year-old, so I can't really complain, to be perfectly honest. I think that's an absolute cracker, and that's a really, really nice one to finish off Speyside, because I didn't really know what to expect from it. So yes, Speyside done. We're nearly at the end. I've got a selection of world whiskies, and then Islay, and then that's it. And then hopefully you'll be able to join me either in person or on the live stream on the 21st of January, when I'll do the final 3 in York. Tickets are still available, so if you know anybody that's would like to go, can get to York. It's next door to York train station. It's the easiest place possible, without doing it in the train station, that I could get. And if you have anything that you might be willing to donate, we can sell either as a raffle or sell on auction on the night, something interesting, unusual, rare. I'm not looking for mega expensive rare stuff unless you are incredibly generous, but anything different that you think people might actually want to buy, and that money will go straight to the Children's Heart Surgery Fund as well. Let me know, send me an email, and we'll see what we can get sorted out. So yes, Speyside done. Thank you, Speyside. It was fun. Took a while, but it was fun. And I shall see you at the next one, where we'll take a bit of a road trip. In fact, we're not going to take a road trip because we can't to Australia. We're going to have to fly. So I'll see you there. Cheers. Bye.